love Borderlands. I have been invested in this series since I was basically a kid. I've seen the highs and the lows, and I've stuck behind this series regardless. It's a uniquely amazing looter shooter that's helped set me on my path to love first-person shooters. I've sunk an ungodly amount of time across this series, and the love that I have for Borderlands has been cemented in long nights grinding with friends and family, and being present in almost every title to date, excluding these two. Now, you might be wondering why I would bother to even start the video by saying this, especially as I'm reviewing this title. Doesn't that make it seem like I'll be biased? Well, that's sort of the exact reason I'm so open about my love for this series. To pretend this is a normal review would be disingenuous. I do have an outstanding relationship with Borderlands, but that being said, I will be doing my absolute best to praise what deserves to be praised here and call out the negatives that Borderlands 4 has. And trust me, it does have some. Now, this review will be as spoiler-free as possible, as I know a lot of people want to sink their teeth into the story here. So if there's anything that comes up that I need to talk about, I will quickly give a heads up regarding the spoiler and the timestamp for you to skip to. All gameplay that you see in the background of this video will either be early game or side content, nothing related to the story or spoilers towards the end of the game. With that being said, I don't just like Borderlands 4, I fucking love Borderlands 4. There's a lot to say about Borderlands 4. It's been a long time since I've been unable to put down a game and feel an itch to jump back in pretty much the second I was done playing it. It almost made me regret not taking some annual leave time off of work for its release. But Borderlands 4 changes the written rule of linear mission and map design quite a lot. Before this, we had linear level designs in other areas built for certain missions and side content. Borderlands 4 instead has this massive pseudo open world, which has its advantages as much as its disadvantages. The open world is just packed with so much to do. There's world bosses and safe houses and collectibles, and there is a substantial amount of content here, and it can feel very overwhelming during the start of your playtime. But once you feel that desire to start exploring the horizon, it's hard to stop. Most of the time I was met with a bandit camp to clear out or a tower to climb, but it never really felt like my exploration was wasted, and it was always forefront on my mind upon landing in Kairos. It's a feeling that never really went away as I got to new zones later in the game. Now, a lot of this open world stuff isn't exactly fulfilling content. It feels like a Ubisoft title. It's not bad per se, it's just something that we've seen done to death before. Something that's been critiqued as it worms its way into most video game series. If you've ever played a Far Cry game or modern Assassin's Creed title, you know what to expect here. It might be a deal breaker for some, but I've always loved the open world genre. Not so much in Ubisoft's design, but here it actually fits Borderlands amazingly well. So much that I believe it fits it better than Ubisoft's own titles. There's world events, collectibles, vaults, and random world bosses that you can just kind of stumble across. One of my favorite events was these Ripper drill camps that you can just find scattered around Kairos. It's a gauntlet of enemies that you need to defeat in order to spawn a boss fight. It was so much fun the first time I found one that I farmed it for like 40 minutes with that new Moxie machine that allows you to replay boss fights without save quitting or leaving the area. Which, I'll touch on some of this stuff later, but that's a great quality of life improvement. It was incredibly fun, and it was just something that I stumbled on. There was no mission or side quest tied to it. It was just there, out in the open for anyone to find. And that's what I love about open world games, finding things that feel rewarding without being prompted to check it out. There is really only one downside to this new open world formula and the side content that comes with it, and that's the upgrade and SDU system. It has me dreading playing a second playthrough with the new Vault Hunter. Upgrades and SDU tokens are now directly tied to this open world content that you're doing. You can't just upgrade your ammo capacity with money or iridium this time around. You need SDU tokens, which require you to go out and do this open world side content in order to obtain. So, if you're using any kind of weapon that just consumes ammo or you just want a bigger backpack upgrade so you can tinker with builds later, you need to be doing this side stuff where you can. In previous titles, it just required cash or iridium, which was given to you by doing pretty much anything, whether that was farming bosses or side content or anything else that you wanted to do. Now you need to be doing this side content in order to actually upgrade your storage capacity for your ammo or your backpack or lost loot, and that sucks. This stuff should reward you with bonus stuff, like unique weapons or class mods, instead of it just being tied directly to SDUs and upgrading your potential ammo capacity. You know, something to reward curious players who go out of their way. It's a safe open world formula, and for their first outing into it, it's all it needs to be. It's not fantastic that it's like this, but it's not terrible either. The biomes of Kairos feel distinct, and while it's definitely not on par with Borderlands 3's galaxy-spanning locations, there's enough diversity here to make the map not feel outdated too quickly. You've got desert wastelands, green lushes, and snowy mountains no matter which direction you go in, not to mention the modern order buildings scattered throughout and a cityscape later down the line. For my first playthrough, I decided to play Vex, the witchy siren. Usually my first playthrough of any title is usually the soldier class, and don't get me wrong, Rafa looks fucking cool. I just felt compelled to start with something else, and Vex was the only one that kind of drew me in. I can't speak too much on the others just yet, as I haven't played too much of them, but if Gearbox knows to do one thing, it's their fucking Vault Hunters. The build crafting here is deep and very complex in the way that you can actually structure your Vault Hunter, at least for Vex. She has a familiar tiger that she can summon, kinetic clones that she can summon, or use kinetic energy blasts instead. All of these action skills, of course, attune to the elemental damage that Vex has equipped, meaning that most of the time you can almost always be dealing bonus damage to bosses or mobs all the same. It feels fantastic watching a boss melt away because you summoned the right elemental type for the job. A lot of the action skills with all of the Vault Hunters actually feel like a mix of other Vault Hunters from the past, but remixed. And honestly, I am totally okay with that. It feels strangely familiar to play, but fresh enough that I don't actually notice it in the moment-to-moment gameplay. The Vault Hunters also feel like real characters this time. Cutscenes actually show your character doing things and speaking in a way that feels believable for the character you're playing. It's a great distinction from the previous titles. There was a bit of chatter before Borderlands 4 released about how bland the characters looked, but this couldn't be more wrong. Playing with friends in multiplayer, you can clearly tell who is who, and it's nice to have that kind of visual clarity within the Vault Hunters. I will note though, I do think we should have a bit more in terms of customization, especially with body pieces. There does seem to only be a handful for each character, and I kind of wish we had unlocked more with side content or missions, but anyway. And with that finely timed segue, I did find the side quests and missions to be some of the best this series has ever had. They were filled with pop culture references and genuinely funny writing, which was a huge contention point for me with Borderlands 3. That game was filled with toilet humor and meme culture references that were outdated before the game even came out. The writing here feels very intentional with its humor, and most of it is subtle, which reminds me of the writing of Borderlands 2. So I can safely say that I really enjoyed it. There were some moments I still audibly groaned, but there were far more moments that got a chuckle or a laugh out of me. It's a stark improvement over the last 3 games in the series, if we include Wonderlands and New Tales. The side quests were also varied with different mission designs. I feel like Gearbox got really creative here. There were heists, assassinations, helping AIs die, and even one where you capture invincible guns by throwing a capsule at them to prevent them from hurting anyone. And with Nintendo's finely timed patent, I gotta say they got this one in just in the nick of time. Not to mention, one of the first ones I found in the match was this guy that was just way too obsessed with threshers. A little too obsessed. There was enough variety here that I actively seeked out the side content because it was genuinely really good. The humor in any Borderlands game is always a balancing act of just funny enough that it doesn't spill into annoying, and I personally feel like Borderlands 4 nails that quite well. I still groaned and cringed at some of the stuff, but arguably way less than Borderlands 3. And quick spoiler, which isn't really a spoiler because it was shown in game trailers, Zane and Amara are just really fucking funny. I laughed at almost any interaction that they had together, and it was a duo I didn't think that I needed up until this point.
Outpost Tracker, mother of mercenaries, Shadow be thy name.
What was that?
I told you to be a prayer. Leave it be.
There's nothing more I can really say about the side content. They were surprisingly great, and the fact that I chased after them after the fact says a lot about the quest design and the writing. It is a night and day difference from Borderlands 3, and it kind of has me excited for the DLCs in the future. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play with the side content until the end of the main story, as I tended to ignore them in the past until I finished the main story. For those that don't really know, mission and side content rewards are scaled to the level that you are, and I thought that considering every Borderlands game previously had blue and purple unique weapons with red texts, I would save a lot of these side contents until I was done with the main story. Which leads me to another gripe that I have. There are no unique purple or red text weapons in this game. At least, I wasn't able to find any. Which kind of bums me out, to be honest. I liked coming across meme weapons or guns with unique effects that weren't legendary, like the Sandhawk or Ladyfinger from Borderlands 2. I'm sad that they're gone, but I think I know why. And now, it's time to talk about the manufacturers and the loot pool. I won't spend too much time discussing the entirety of the stuff that can randomly generate, because who has the time for that? And I do think some of the beauty of Borderlands comes from finding stuff for the first time and experimenting with new stuff. So I could safely say though, without spoiling what you can find, there is an ungodly amount of customization and loot in this game. And while technically there is much less gun manufacturers this time around, there is an insane amount of parts and attachments that can be generated on those manufacturers. You can have a Jacob sniper rifle with a Hyperion shield, or even a Torg underbarrel to fire missiles or shotgun shells. It's actually kind of insane what you can find. While there are much less manufacturers for the base guns, they have attachments covering pretty much everything from the game, like previous games. You've got COV, you've got Atlas and Hyperion. It's fantastic. I'm gonna be as honest as I can be. I prefer this. Borderlands 3 felt like a lot of manufacturers didn't need to exist. Atlas, for example, only really had one gimmick, and that was tracking. So I'm okay with them being attachments because it adds to the variety of the guns in the sandbox without diluting it. You can find a Torg weapon, for example, that fires explosive impact rounds, but has an Atlas underbarrel, so you can spray and pray with explosive bolts that track your enemies. It's fantastic. It's exciting now because I still check purples and blues to see if they have something unique that might be useful to me in that moment. And while there were plenty of times I preferred legendaries, there were also plenty of times I preferred the blues and the purples I was finding just because of their generation. So while it is a little bit sad that we no longer have the blue or purple, red text non-legendaries, I would actually trade them in a heartbeat for what we have here in Borderlands 4. So I suppose I'll use this next period to talk about the movement. Much like Borderlands 3, the movement has been expanded, just a smidge. A gentle smidge, that is, with a grappling hook and a jet glide, because calling it a jetpack would actually be very confusing. All it really does is glide, and well, boost around, but we'll talk about that. This opens up Kairos quite significantly and allows quite a bit of different level design to what we're used to. It's nice. There's many different ways to move throughout the world now as you start to visualize pathways on the fly, and this new movement begins to, feel natural. It also means that Gearbox can design completely new ways to traverse a level, opening up pathways and level designs that they never could before, or hiding secrets or red chests in areas you would have never been able to get to before. It always felt great using the full kit and being rewarded with a hidden chest somewhere. There's a whole level of verticality here that honestly just feels a little normal now. You start to look at the game areas differently and how you can navigate them, not to mention the impact that this actually has on conflict. The glide and the grapple offer so much more diverse ways to engage conflict and move around on the battlefield on the fly. The gameplay reveals that we saw last year really undersold how great this movement can be. You can dip in and out of combat and dodge massive hits from badass enemies and bosses all the same, and pairing this movement with the grapple gives you insane momentum to cross around the field. There's less incentive to use cover and more incentive to get proactive and engage conflict with momentum. And for that caffeine-infused 12-year-old, it's going to feel right at home here. Boss fights have been designed around this new mobility. You will notice that a lot of bosses now have sweeping area attacks or sweeping attacks in general or area of effect stuff that you can dodge if you react accordingly. It's very satisfying to actually dodge a hit that would normally put you in a fight for your life. Speaking of mobility, Borderlands 4 ditches the catch-a-ride station for a digi-structed vehicle that you can call in with the press of a button almost anywhere. It makes traversing the world much easier and much simpler, but it also means that vehicles now are completely individual. There's no additional seats for your friends to hop in, rest in peace the Light Runner, and while it's not a huge miss, it does mean that vehicles start to feel a little less unique. Unlike many people, I actually really liked the vehicle variety in Borderlands 3. You had so many options and ways to traverse the world, and Borderlands 4 ditches this diversity in favor of a more streamlined experience. Outside of cosmetic changes, there isn't really anything that you can do with your Digirunner. There is sort of a manufacturer change which can make them faster, but it's a negligible change that I barely even noticed. You can't even change the weapons on them, which again isn't a huge miss, but it is something to mention. And finally, I guess I will touch on my feelings for the main story. Without spoiling anything, the game does take itself much more seriously this time around, and the stakes are arguably more believable, which helps in immersion for sure and storytelling, but it's still a Borderlands game. Expect hijinks and dumb moments, but it's all very Borderlandsy, which is high praise, honestly. It's far more in line with previous titles when compared to its predecessor, and I'd argue that it's even more in line with Borderlands 2, which is probably the best praise that I can give this game. It's a stark improvement over 3, and it's way more fun in its endgame, even if it is limited at the moment. Speaking of the endgame, And technically this will be spoiling the endgame quite a bit, so while it's not story related, if you want to see this stuff for yourself, skip to the timestamp provided below. Once you've beaten the main campaign, the game opens up quite a bit, allowing you to earn specializations, which are basically this game's badass rank from previous titles, except instead of just a minor stat improvement, you also get specializations, which are like unique bonuses and modifiers to specific actions, and they're not applicable to every character that you're playing, it's only the character that you're playing at that time, which kind of sucks. It means that you don't get to use like your specializations in a new character straight away, which isn't great. But it is what it is. A new machine also opens up, which uses Iridium to take certain perk bonuses off of certain gear and apply it to other gear, which opens up the endgame build crafting quite a bit. It does mean the grind is shortened a little bit, but the machine is there, so you don't have to use it if you want more of a traditional Borderlands grind. More so, you do unlock the ability to go into Ultimate Vault Hunter mode by completing a new story mission, but with modifiers. Personally, I haven't been able to go into it due to a bug that prevents the mission from progressing, which is just such bullshit, but anyway. It sucks because it's the first bug I encountered during gameplay that prevented actual progression. I am led to believe that it's just Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, but with sort of Borderlands 3 mayhem twist on it. So look, Borderlands games tend to receive quite a bit of post-game support like takedowns, events, and DLCs, so while the endgame is a little bland right now, it probably won't stay that way forever. Even in its current state, I do prefer it way more than Borderlands 3, which I basically dropped the second I completed all the achievements. And while I just spent a bit of time gushing about the niceties of Borderlands 4, I do need to dedicate a small section to the absolutely abysmal performance this title has. I do not have a terrible PC by any means. I am well above the recommended specs, which are shown on screen now, and even at medium settings and DLSS set to balanced, I was hovering at like 60 FPS at 1440p. Frame gen is almost a requirement if you want to hit triple digits on anything. Digital Foundry did a fantastic video showcasing the performance on a top-of-the-line rig at 4K, and it does truly show how unoptimized this game is, even on the commercially best gaming PC on the planet. So, please do not let Randy Pitchford gaslight you into believing that your PC is the problem, and if you haven't already started playing the game, look into performance benchmark videos of similar systems to yours, and you'll have a greater understanding on what you can actually expect out of this title. I'm not sure what's going on here in the back end of this game because it doesn't look nearly good enough to warrant this kind of an impact on performance. Do not get me wrong, it looks great, and it's leagues above Borderlands 3, but it's not cyberpunk level good. The stigma around Unreal Engine 5 has been making the rounds on Twitter, but I don't think that we can actually just blame the engine here. There are plenty of Unreal 5 games out there that run way better than this. So I just hope Gearbox just gets cracking on performance patches, because I want to recommend this to every fan of looter shooters and especially Borderlands fans, but I know that not everyone has an insanely beefy rig just to play at comfortable levels of performance. I don't even know why they let Randy comment online anymore. There's nothing that he's said in the past couple of weeks helps this game get sales or eases fan concerns. If anything, he's actively hindering and hurting the game's success. In the last couple of weeks, he's commented on some wildly silly statements, which I'm almost tempted to make a separate video on, but I'm not going to. Anyway, moving on. In conclusion, Borderlands 4 is the sequel that we all deserved after Borderlands 2. It's vibrant, it's fun, it's chaotic, and it's brimming with personality. The Vault Hunters are familiar to series veterans, but not so familiar that they feel like cardboard copies of things we've seen before, and the Timekeeper and the story are fantastically fresh. While not on par with Handsome Jack as a villain, I still found the story to be a step forward for the series, taking itself far more seriously while still maintaining that Borderlands feel, which is a sigh of relief looking back. The endgame is blunt, but in a much better state than Borderlands 3 at launch, and I have faith that DLCs and bonus content will liven things up. Borderlands 2 also didn't have a great endgame at launch until afterwards, so I'm totally okay with waiting in the meantime. At least for now, I still have 3 other Vault Hunters to get to level 50 and grind out, so that'll keep me busy. Performance issues aside, what's here is good bones. There's a foundation for some really amazing Borderlands content, and I'm looking forward to it. I do hope Gearbox buckles down and fixes the wildly common performance problems so that everyone can enjoy what is clearly a great game. Let's just hope Randy doesn't shoot them in the foot first.